On November 4, 1979, in the heart of Tehran, thousands of agitated people scaled the gates and entered the United States Embassy. Their target was 58 American citizens. The embassy's security surrendered, and within hours, 52 American diplomats and workers were in the custody of Iranian protesters. Their only demand from the American government was, "Send back the Shah of Iran, or see the dead faces of your people." Amidst this chaos, 6 American diplomats managed to escape through the embassy's secret door. They remained hidden, fleeing and changing identities for several days. With each passing day, the risk of their capture increased. Getting them out of Iran alive was nothing short of a mission impossible. But this very mission was entrusted to America's Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. And then, the stage was set for a fake Hollywood film shoot, complete with fake actors, a fake script, and even false movie posters. But this was not a real movie. It was a CIA rescue mission codenamed Argo. Welcome once again to Dark Venture Videos. By November 1979, political unrest in Iran had reached its peak. A few months earlier, in January 1979, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the old ruler of Iran, had fled the country under the pressure of public protests. His 38-year rule had the support of America, but the Iranian people were fed up with him because the Shah of Iran himself was living a life of luxury. Most of the control in Iran was America's. Decisions were made at America's will, and America also had all control over oil, while the people of Iran were becoming poorer and poorer. In the hearts of the people, the Shah of Iran's respect was now like that of an American puppet. The Shah of Iran's secret police, called SAVAK, made people tremble just by hearing its name, because SAVAK suppressed all kinds of opposition. Amidst this political storm, a person returned from exile, and it was none other than Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He was a religious leader who gained both the anger and support of the people. Khomeini led the Islamic Revolution, and within weeks, Iran's system changed from monarchy to one based on Islamic law, and Iran became the Islamic Republic of Iran. With this power shift, there was a tremendous increase in anti-Western sentiment. America was no longer seen merely as an ally of the Shah, but as a corrupt Western country. On the streets of Tehran, people attacked embassies, burned American flags, and chanted slogans against it. People's anger against America increased further when they learned that America had given asylum to the Shah of Iran. And that's why their demand was to send the Shah back to Iran. Iranian protesters planned to take U.S. Embassy employees hostage to teach America a lesson. On November 4, 1979, thousands of protesters gathered outside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, chanting slogans, scaled the walls and gates, and entered. When the security guards saw the crowd of thousands, they also laid down their weapons and moved aside. And finally, 52 out of 58 American nationals inside were taken hostage. But the protesters did not know that the embassy also had a secret door that opened directly onto the street from the back. During this attack, 6 American diplomats secretly managed to escape through this secret door. But they had neither a plan nor any cover. They could not go into public, nor could they resort to any official channel, and going back to the embassy was like inviting death. Tehran at that time had become a prison for foreigners. In the first few hours, they tried to avoid the crowd and not use phones. These American diplomats could be easily identified because of their faces. Even a small mistake, and all of them would lose their lives. They asked for shelter from several embassies, but everyone refused for fear that if the Iranian revolutionaries found out, the consequences would be very bad. Meanwhile, Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor helped them. Although the Canadian government kept refusing them, Ken Taylor still gave them shelter in his safe house on his own responsibility. These 6 American diplomats remained hidden in the Canadian ambassador's house for the next 3 months. Their presence was kept a strict secret. They were neither seen near any window nor dared to go outside. The names of the diplomats who escaped from the embassy were Robert Anders, who was a consular officer, Mark Lijek, vice consul, his wife Cora Lijek, who was in the immigration department, Joseph Stafford, political officer, and his wife Kathleen Stafford, who handled visa documentation, and finally, Lee Schatz, agricultural statistician. When America learned that 6 diplomats had escaped the hostage situation, the U.S. government kept this information top secret, publicly announcing it could not only put their lives in even greater danger, but also the 52 Americans who were in the custody of the protesters would have been killed. If the Iranian revolutionaries found out, a massive manhunt could have been launched, with chances of attacks on the Canadian embassy as well, and the dishonor to America would have been separate. That's when America entrusted this operation to CIA expert Tony Mendez. The CIA first made several plans, including extracting the diplomats through UN trucks, escaping disguised as local Iranians, and exiting through another embassy's route. But every option was very risky. The American government did not have any plan that was 100% safe. But Tony Mendez gave an idea that no one had ever imagined, and this plan also seemed technically feasible. He proposed staging a fake science fiction film production. This film crew would officially visit Iran, as if they had come to find shooting locations for the film. Through this, they would have a logical reason to stay in Tehran, and most importantly, they would eventually be able to leave the country legally from the airport, if they had passports from another country. But the condition was that this cover should not be so interesting that it draws everyone's attention, and only realistic enough for the Iranian authorities to believe it. And this is where the idea of a fake Hollywood science fiction film production was born. Tony Mendez's plan was to create a completely false story about a film crew coming to Iran whose purpose would be to find locations for a big science fiction movie in the Middle East. He deliberately chose the science fiction genre because any strange thing could be easily excused in it. And thus, Argo was born, a film that was never made. To make it real, they opened a real office in Hollywood, an office that looked exactly like a professional studio, with furniture, film scripts, telephones, posters, and even staff hired to attend calls. News about Argo was deliberately leaked to the Hollywood media. Fake quotations, fabricated producer interviews, and marketing material were circulated. Tony Mendez knew that if anyone tried to find proof of this film's authenticity, they would definitely find something. The script written for Argo was also specially prepared for this mission. The script repeatedly mentioned locations in the Middle East, for which Tehran's landscape was perfect. This lie was made so intricately true that it was very difficult to doubt it. Each of those 6 Americans was given a specific role. One became a screenwriter, another a cinematographer, and another a set designer. Everyone was assigned a different professional identity. They were all given complete documentation, fake Canadian passports, business cards, production schedules, and a glossy brochure detailing the film project. Everything was exactly like a real Hollywood film production. But just creating documents was not enough. The real challenge was to train these people on how to play those roles, how to behave with customs officials, how to answer questions, how to walk, talk, and act with confidence like film industry professionals. Tony Mendez gave them all a crash course. They were taught every single detail. If someone asks you who you are, the answer should be in your face and accent, not just your passport. The first objective of the mission had been achieved, and mentally, these 6 Americans had now become film crew members. Now the next challenge was to make this whole story work inside Tehran. After several weeks of preparation, Tony Mendez got permission to go to Iran with a fake identity as a Canadian film producer who wanted to scout locations in Iran for a science fiction movie. His cover was supported by official documents that had been pre-approved in collaboration with Canadian authorities. In January 1980, Tony Mendez arrived in Tehran as an ordinary foreign visitor. No one suspected his entry because Tony had all the legal documentation and a Canadian passport, and his false story was also supported by news published in the media. Upon arriving in Tehran, he first contacted Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor, and then a meeting was arranged with those 6 Americans. For safety, this meeting took place inside the ambassador's residence so that no one would get wind of it. Then Mendez briefed everyone in detail on how to behave at the airport, what to say to border officials, which points to highlight, and which questions to avoid. They were repeatedly made to understand that they had to present themselves to the Iranian authorities as confident, professional film crew members who had come for a short business trip. But if this plan failed or if anyone made even a small mistake, everyone already knew the consequences. Not only would these 6 Americans get caught, but the negotiations America was conducting to save the 52 hostages would also be affected, and big problems would also arise for the Canadian embassy, because Canada had issued the fake passports. For the next few days, they continued these preparations, and finally, the time had come to face the Iranian authorities at Tehran Airport. It was an ordinary morning at Tehran Airport. People were arriving, being checked. Among them was a group, a film producer and his 6 crew members. They were all confident, relaxed, and speaking English with a slight accent. There was only one problem here. Those 6 crew members, whose fake Canadian passports, did not have any entry stamps for Iran. Tony Mendez also knew that a new government had just come to power in Iran, and the customs and border security system was quite disturbed, and in such a situation, a missing stamp was common. If Iranian officials created any problem regarding this, there would only be one solution: confidence. At one checkpoint, a guard stopped after seeing the title of Art Director, and another looked at the visa for a little longer. But fortunately, their cover story was so real that no one suspected anything. The behavior of those 6 crew members was exactly like that of ordinary travelers, and furthermore, the Canadian embassy was also on standby so that if a verification call came, they could immediately confirm. When boarding was announced, everyone calmly got up, crossed the gate, and sat in the Swiss airplane. After the plane took off, until it left Iranian airspace, these 6 diplomats and Tony Mendez controlled their emotions. But the mission was still ongoing. Upon reaching Zurich, they were taken into custody by U.S. authorities and secretly taken to America. No headlines were published anywhere. No official statement was released. Everything was kept top secret. This cover story was not only for their safety, but also necessary to protect Canada's involvement. This story remained a secret for the next 17 years, and then in 1997, after 17 years, the CIA finally declassified the documents. Tony Mendez himself narrated the whole story of how a fake film, a fake studio, and an impossible mission saved 6 lives. The remaining 52 American hostages, after being held captive for 444 days, were finally released on January 20, 1981, as soon as Ronald Reagan became the U.S. president. The Shah of Iran, who caused this whole affair, passed away from cancer on July 27, 1980, in America itself. The story of Argo, which was once only in classified files, had now become the subject of journalists, historians, and filmmakers worldwide. A movie was also made on it, but many scenes in this movie were far from reality. To make the story interesting, the CIA's role was highly highlighted in the movie, but in reality, this mission would not have been possible without the help of Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor. Ken Taylor was declared a national hero in Canada, and the U.S. also honored him with a gold medal. The Argo mission, which the media named the Canadian Caper, was the event after which the U.S. Embassy in Iran never reopened. After the mission, Canada also closed its embassy and recalled its diplomats. We hope you will also heartily like and share this video from Dark Venture.